Welcome to one and all. We're on the 21st of the month of Iyar, 5777, Holy Time, Holy Apple. We're on part 2 of the counting of the Omer, like you never have heard. A little quick 2-minute recap of what we did in the first part. We saw that in the Torah there are 3 historical events that happened, which have the same amount of people that passed away. The first event took place during the time of the sons of Jacob, led by Shimon and Levi in Shechem. 24,000 people were killed in the surrounding war that broke out. The second event, which involves 24,000 people being blown away, was 40 years, the last year of the desert, during the sin of the Jewish people with the daughters of Moab, led by Zimri, the leader of the tribe of Shimon. And the last event, of course, is right now the counting of the Omer. We know that 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva passed away during this 49-day period. So we have 3 events, 24,000 people in each event. We know that in Torah and Judaism and life there are no incidents, there are no by chance, and you see the same thing 3 times. We have to say that there is a connection between all 3 events. Now, it's very clear. 2 events, you could say it's very clear the connection. Number 1 and 2, the event that took place in Shechem, when Shechem raped Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. It's clear the connection between the event at the last year, the 40th year of the wandering in the desert, where the Jewish men of the tribe of Shimon, once again it's Shimon, just like Shimon in Shechem, we have once again Shimon leading the charge. 24,000 men from the tribe of Shimon were wiped out in a plague because of the fact that they participated with illicit relations with the women of Moab. So we have 2 cases which are very similar, and then we have a third case which seems like it's the sore thumb, it's sticking out, there's no connection whatsoever. It's the students of Rabbi Akiva that lacked respect. They did not respect one another. They did not give honor to each other. What is that? It seems like it's totally out of place and there is no connection. But as we said, if there are 3 events and they have the same amount of people that died, there definitely is a very, very heavy connection here, and our job is to find out what that is. Another side issue that we spoke about was we posed the question, was there a difference in Shechem? Was there a difference between Shimon and Levi? We posed the second question, was there a difference between Shimon and Levi during the selling of Joseph? We know in both those cases, the leaders leading the charge in Shechem were Shimon and Levi. When leading the charge in trying to eliminate their brother Yosef were also Shimon and Levi. The question is, was there any difference between the 2? And we saw, very interesting, we saw many sources that there's a tremendous difference between Shimon and Levi. We see that Levi, his actions in Shechem were totally for the sake of heaven, and therefore he went on to become one of the leaders. The spiritual leaders till this day are from the tribe of Levi. They are our leaders, our teachers. And Shimon turned out to be lacking in his for the sake of heaven intentions. Also, the same is true, even though the idea to kill Joseph was both Shimon and Levi. We see as it progressed, Levi is out of the picture, and that's why Joseph, when years later, when the brothers come down to Egypt in order to buy some food because there's a famine in the land of Israel, so Joseph decides to put into prison Shimon. Now, the idea was to separate Shimon and Levi because he was afraid of the two together. But he could have put Levi in prison, but he didn't. He put Shimon specifically because of the fact that he knew that the major instigator against him was Shimon. And therefore, measure for measure, he went out and he punished Shimon. Because there's a different angle between Shimon and Levi. So we saw that. I wanted to mention today, believe it or not, in the morning before the morning prayers, I was going through the Zohar HaKadosh, and I saw a tremendous thing. I saw that the Zohar Kadosh brings down a very similar idea, that there's a tremendous difference between Shimon and Levi. And spiritually, he brings out very interesting, that Shimon is judgment, is harsh judgment, 100%, like there's no edges. It's just 100%. And on the other hand, Levi is also judgment, but he's a mixture of tiferet, of beauty. So you have judgment mixed with beauty. So once again, this can be found in Zohar Kadosh on the portion of the week of Acharei Mot, which was a couple of weeks ago. If I'm not mistaken, on the 62nd page, he says straight out that there's a tremendous difference between Shimon and Levi spiritually. So, anyways, the people that are interested in the subject of Shimon and Levi and what they did in Shechem, especially in our area, we are a few miles away from the city of Shechem. So these are important side issues for us. Okay.
What animal was Shimon and Levi equated to in the bracha from Yaakov?
Shimon was Shechem, and Levi was the breastplate.
He also didn't he associate him with animals also?
There are certain tribes that have, for example, Benjamin.
All the tribes did, I thought all the tribes did.
Not all the tribes.
I know after Yehuda they all did. Shimon and Levi did not?
There's, God was a tent. Issachar had, according to some opinion, there was a donkey. Zvulun was a boat.
I'll have to look.
Different.
I'll have to look. I remember them all being. I don't know. Still have that impression.
Okay, so back part 2. Let's take it away. Just warning you, put on your seatbelts. The counting of the Omer like we've never heard before. Okay. We're taught from a young age. Our kids know about it. We know about it. We're very familiar with the fact that the Talmud in the tractate of Yevamot, the 62nd page, side 2, talks about the fact that the students of Rabbi Akiva were killed by a disease because of the fact that they did not honor each other. Are there any other pieces of information that we could see which would connect somehow the first 2 events, which were Shechem, which had to do with illicit relations, immoral relations, the second event having to do with, again, pritzut, illicit relations that took place between the Jews and the daughters of Moab? Is there a connection? Is there something that we find with Rabbi Akiva or the students of Rabbi Akiva in the field of women, immodest behavior, illicit relations? Is there? Okay, so let's roll it. Things you've never heard before. Our first source today is Tana Devei Eliyahu. These are Torahs that were taught by Elijah the prophet himself. This is in Eliyahu Zuta, 22nd chapter. Check it out. Unbelievable case. You're not hearing things. You could look it up yourself. Hold on. Here's what it says. There was an action by a student of Rabbi Akiva but he wasn't your regular student. He was a student that he was in charge. He stood at the head, maybe of the student union of his time. So he was considered to be the head of the students, the representative of the students. Now this is important, because if your head hurts you, your whole body, your entire body hurts you. Because we go according to our brain, to our head. So it's very important to understand that if there's a blemish at the top, right? You look at a business. If you could find a business and you see that the person running the business is not a straight kind of person, you know that if you follow the dots, follow the dot lines, you'll find that it seeps down to the smaller people, because everything goes according to, you know what I'm saying, to that. If you have an honest person, a straight person, that's going to have an effect on the other workers. It's going to have a positive effect, and the opposite. So it's very important, this fact, that the sages tell us, that Elijah the prophet tells us, that this was the leader of the 24,000 students, the spokesman of the 24,000 people. And one day he went out into the marketplace where there were a group of prostitutes. And he especially was interested in one certain prostitute there. Now this prostitute got wind of his intentions, this student, and she's kind of like, splits the scene, kind of takes off over here. So she takes off, and he comes after her. And now, remember the song, there must be 50 ways to leave your lover. Well, must be 50 ways to get rid of this, this student of Rabbi Akiva here. So she makes her way into a building, and she finds her way somehow to the roof of the building. But that doesn't stop our Talmudic scholar from coming after her, and he's too, right now, he's on the top of the roof. She looks back at the student of Rabbi Akiva, and she's like rubbing her eyes, like, what's going down over here? She looks, and she sees like angels surrounding this person. Amazing thing. There's angels surrounding, like this guy. Who is this guy? His whole, like this. Look, she looks around, and there's an entire, group of people surrounding this person. Now it must be a spiritual kind of sight that she sees. So she's thinking like, wow, what's going on over here? And even the angel Gabriel was there. And she says to herself, listen, if I go ahead and allow this student, this Talmudic scholar, if I allow him to join me, and we will both sin, we will both end up in hell. And I don't want to end up there, and I don't want him to end up there, because I see that he's a special person. I see that he has angels surrounding him. So she comes up to him and says, listen, why would you want, for a split second of enjoyment, why would you throw away your entire share in the world to come for 1 second? Doesn't make any sense. The student keeps on coming, comes closer to her, and she pulls out another excuse. And that's not stopping him either. It's only after, and this is all written here, it's only after the third time, 3 strikes and you're out here. So he was almost 3 strikes and he was out. But it was only on the third excuse that she came up with, he backed off. And a heavenly voice came out and said that both these two young people have a share in the world to come. Both these two people have a share in the world to come. So folks, this is an amazing piece of information that the sages are given. Something that we were never taught. Something we never heard of. In fact, I went to I went to one of the leading rabbis in the yeshiva that I learned in Elon More, and he's a person that he knows back and forth. You know, like, he knows all the sources back and forth. And I told him about this. He says, I've never heard of it. I want to see it. He didn't even believe me. And I showed it to him. He said, give me that. I have to copy it. And he went downstairs on the copying machine and he copied it. He says, I can't believe it. It's the first time I ever heard this. And you know, he's given, every year he gives another angle of the students. I mean, he gives classes all year round, but at this time of year he gives a different angle of the students. And he's given so many different angles over the last years, but never this one.
But why would she at the beginning run away from him before she saw the angels? Why didn't she, answer to him? He wanted her, she's a prostitute anyway.
Well, we see that she had a lot of,
Oh, she took the Talmud Chacham already, and she didn't want to.
Sometimes, that you don't want to get other people, like you're having trouble yourself, but you don't necessarily want to bring somebody down with yourself. Okay, that's number one. Next question, Rabbi Akiva. How many cases do we have in the entire Talmud? How many cases do we have where we see some kind of event that there's a test, that one of the sages is being tested by a woman, or a sage that's coming close to crossing the red line with a woman and having sin? How many cases are there?
David Melech.
What?
David Melech for one.
I'm talking about first in the Talmud.
Oh, you're talking about that era.
I'm talking about the Talmud era of the Tanaim and Amoraim. How many cases? Not many. Now, hold on, seatbelt here. We've said there are really not a lot of cases. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, rabbis, Tanaim, Amoraim, thousands maybe. And we don't see this happening. We don't see this happening. Rabbi Akiva, the holy Rabbi Akiva, who was on a higher level than Moses. Moses was on the 49th level. Rabbi Akiva was on the 50th level. Rabbi Akiva, throughout our sources, there are three incidents, a lot. Because there's only a handful in the entire tractates of the Talmud, in the thousands and thousands of pages. You can find here and there some kind of test that God gave to the sages with women, but they were pretty holy. Three cases. Number one, there was a wicked Roman Empire, one of the wicked Roman emperors. His name was, he has a rough name, Tyrannus Rufus. He was a real wicked guy, and he had a beautiful wife. It says in our sources, it tells us in the Tractate of Nidarim, page 50, side 2. It says that the wife of Tyrannus lifted up her skirt when Rabbi Akiva came by in order to try to incite him and induce him to do a sin, an illicit relation there. So we see, by the way, she later on converted and became his wife. But this is before that. Of course, she's married. Rabbi Akiva sees her with her dress pulled up, and he spits, and he leaves. Incident number one. Incident number two. This is listed in Avot de Rabbi Natan, the 16th chapter. It says that Rabbi Akiva had to go to the government to speak to the government. And the government tried to make him look bad. So the government sends two women to try to induce Rabbi Akiva to do a sexual immoral act. So they send these two women, and they're dressed up, and they start doing all kinds of things. Once again, Rabbi Akiva is saved. He does not fall. So the second event. Third event, in the last page, or the second to last page in the Tractate of Kiddushin, on page 81, side 2, an amazing case. Rabbi Akiva is walking outside one day, and he sees on top of a palm tree, he sees a woman on top of the palm tree. And now Rabbi Akiva was known for his tremendous strength that he had. And he was also a great climber. We see in a few places, he's a great climber. So Rabbi Akiva sees a woman on top, somewhere on top of a palm tree, which are pretty tall, and he starts climbing up the palm tree. He gets closer and closer, and all of a sudden, there's a voice, okay? It happens to be that it wasn't a real woman. It was the Satan who dressed up as a woman in order to try to test Rabbi Akiva and to make him fall. So Rabbi Akiva was just about to get to that woman and, God forbid, to sin with her, and then all of a sudden Satan says to Rabbi Akiva, listen, I want you to know that you're 1 second away from doing a tremendous sin, but I've been told from heaven, leave Rabbi Akiva alone. The Satan, the evil inclination, was inciting Rabbi Akiva tremendously, and he was this close to performing a sin with this woman, the person that looked like a woman. It was only because in heaven they had told the Satan, they had told the evil inclination to let go of Rabbi Akiva. So it's a tremendous thing. And let me tell you something. This Talmud, this tractate that I'm mentioning, it says that there were two people, true scholars, that laughed at people, at Jews that sinned. One of them was Rabbi Akiva, and one of them was Rabbi Meir. And they laughed. Now, there's a principle, there's a foundation in Torah, in the Talmud, that when you see the word Aveira, sin, it's talking about a sexual act. The word by itself, Aveira, sin, in the Talmud, is talking about a sexual offense. So Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Meir, it says in Margaliot Hashas, a tremendous thing. We don't see other rabbis who would joke and would laugh at sinners, except for these two, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Akiva. Why is that? Of course, the Rabbi Akiva was the rabbi, and Rabbi Meir was a student. Why did they laugh at sinners? Sinners in sexual abuse. Why is that? Because of the fact that they had been tested by Hashem, by God, and they were victorious. So they looked at other people like, it's nothing. We were able to stand the temptation, to stand up against the temptation. You should also be. So they laughed at people that fell when it came to sexual offenses. And then Hashem gave them this lesson. Hashem brought them these women that looked like women. They weren't really women. They were just Satan dressed up, in order to show them how close they were to sinning. Don't laugh at others, because we're always, as it says in the Talmud, there are no guarantors when it comes to immodest behavior, sexual offenses. There is no guarantor. We have to be on the lookout. We have to be all the time, be very, very careful. Do not put ourselves in situations where we might be tempted, because no one has a guarantee. No matter how righteous or religious you are, you don't have a guarantee. So these two people, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Meir, they were tested. So therefore they began to laugh at others that had fallen in this test. And then they got the lesson. That was the last time they laughed. So folks, we have to understand something here. there's a principle, there's a foundation in the Torah that if somebody is 100% clean in a certain issue, Hashem will not test them in that. They're beyond that. They're beyond that already. They pass that test, we go on to the next. Only if we have something, there's some kind of connection to us. We haven't cleansed ourselves 100%. Only in a situation where we're not 100% clean will Hashem give us a test in order to be 100%. So if Rabbi Akiva is constantly being tested 3 times, if Rabbi Akiva is constantly being tested with sexual offenses, I mean, thank God he's able to stand up, that's for sure. But it means here that there's something, that there's some kind of, it's microscopic, of course, but there's something in Rabbi Akiva on this point of sexual behavior that's missing in 100% puzzle. A little 0.000 something percent missing. That's what the Torah is trying to teach us here. So we see, let's just sum up this first point of ours. We see that Rabbi Akiva himself had probably the most amount of tests in this area than any other rabbi in all of the Talmud. Okay, and he's the head of the 24,000 students. So there has to be some kind of ramification for the students because their rabbi has a certain point in him that is not 100% pure when it comes to this subject. Number 2, we saw that the leading student of Rabbi Akiva, it was only because of the stubbornness of this woman who kept on trying to push the student off, that she saved him and herself from this transgression of having relations with a prostitute. And he was the head student of Rabbi Akiva. So all of a sudden, here we see, for the first time ever, probably in our lives, some people don't say Shechianu now during the Omer, but the first time we see, wow, there is some connection between Shechem with raped, Dinah was raped, some kind of illicit sexual action. We have Zimri and the daughters of Moab and the tribe of Shimon, once again with illicit relations. And now, for the first time ever, we see a certain angle of the students of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Akiva with this subject. Okay. There's a tremendous Gemara, there's a tremendous Talmud. It's in the Tractate of Sota, 4th page, side 2. It says the following: Rabbi Chama, the son of Rabbi Chanina, says that if somebody is a haughty person, it is as if they have had illicit relations with forbidden men and women. Once again, if somebody is haughty, they are considered to be people that have had illegal relations, illicit relations, sexual relations. Amazing. The Maharal, the tremendous mind of Jewish thought, he writes in his book Netivot Olam, the second book, he writes in the first chapter is a chapter on humility. The 4th chapter of humility. So once again, the first, when you open up the book of Netivot, you'll see the first subject is humility. Go to the 4th chapter, and you got it right there. Tremendous. Folks, you gotta put on a seatbelt for this. Question that the Maharal says, I don't get it. What in the world is the connection between illicit sexual relations and a person that's haughty? I mean, I don't understand. Every person that you meet that's a Bal Ga'ava, that he's a haughty kind of person, you have to suspect them that they're suspicious in in illegal, illicit sexual relations, like, what's going on? Then we might as well be suspect of the whole, most of the entire world who are haughty. You know, what did Laban say the other day? I'm still the king till further notice. Yeah, he's still the king till further notice. Okay, so the Maharal says, what in the world is the connection between the two sins? Listen to this. The Maharal asks another question. As a good Jew, before he answers, he has to ask a question. What's his question? He says the following. Why did Hashem prohibit us to have relations with all our relatives? If you look especially in the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about in the Torah, in Acharei Mot, in Kedoshim, we've been talking about a lot of illegal relations. And you're not with your aunts, with your uncles, with your different relatives. Why is that? Why did Hashem consider these people to be we have to keep our distance? And listen to the answer of the Maharal. It's a gewaldic, unbelievable, beautiful answer. The Maharal says that Hashem wanted the Jewish people to interact with one another. He wanted them to spread out, spread the goodness, spread the sunshine to others. He didn't want the Jewish people just to, like, a cat many times going around in circles, chasing his own tail. Okay? Just keeping with our own, our own. So Hashem says, all these relatives, you are not allowed to marry. Why? Because I want the Jewish people to spread out. I want unity amongst the Jewish people. And there's not going to be unity if we just hang out with our own families. So therefore, that's the philosophy behind why Jews are not allowed to marry. And for that matter, there's other, by nations of the world also, there's other illicit relations which are on the same level, that God wanted to spread out and unify us. And if we're just hanging out with our own and not hearing other people and not relating to other people, we're not going to be unified. And therefore, listen to this, and therefore, the same foundation could be found at a person who's haughty. A person who's haughty is not getting together with other people. Why? Because I am better than you. He looks at everybody in the world and says, well, you know what? I don't want to be your friend. Why? Because you're not on my level, Jack. You're not at all on my level, And everywhere he looks, he is the greatest, present on this world. And he looks at everybody and he's unable to connect. He's unable to unify himself with the people. So the Maharal says this beautiful idea. Here we have the same ingredient. Just like Hashem says, just like with relations, I do not allow you to marry within your family because I want unification by the Jewish people. I want you to spread out. I want you to see other people, hear other opinions. When a Jew learns, you don't learn by yourself. You learn with a learning partner. And therefore, I come with my experiences of life. They come with their experiences. And together we'll find the truth together. I give a little bit, they give a little bit, and we, God willing, will come up with the truth. So these 2 points, the Talmud says that a person who is haughty is as if he has had illicit relations with all these women that are forbidden in the Torah. They are exactly the same ingredient. They are exactly the same foundation. And they both are not able to involve themselves with other people. Okay, they're not able to unify themselves. So therefore, that's the connection. So we see here a tremendous thing. We see here, let's go back. What they taught us all these years about the sin of the students of Rabbi Akiva, they did not honor one another. Why didn't they honor one another? They didn't honor one another because they looked at the other person and they saw themselves, perhaps, better than others. And therefore, the Talmud says that people that have this look where they see others as not as good as they are is as if they've had illicit relations. That's what we're looking for. Our point will be, our point was, let us connect the the death of the 24,000. Let's connect all the dots. In Shechem, illegal relations. In the desert with the daughters of Moab, illicit relations, sexual relations. But we didn't find anything. Okay, up until today, we didn't find anything with the students of Rabbi Akiva. Not so. The Maharal says, he explains this Gemara. The Gemara teaches us that if you're looking at your friends not in a good light, you're looking as you're better than they are. Therefore, it's as if you've had illicit relations. And that connects us to all three. That connects the students of Rabbi Akiva as if they had illicit relations, and now we see the connection between them and the 24,000 that were in the first two cases. Okay, now there is a point here. I'm going to fine tune it. A person might say, listen, Brother Yehuda, the Talmud says in Sota, what you read, it's somebody that is haughty, somebody, it's called Gasut Ruach. You know, he's all puffed up. But it just says about the students of Rabbi Akiva, it says that they did not honor. It didn't. Okay, so, folks, we're going to see now another tremendous question that we should have all been screaming for the last, who knows how many years. There's a famous source. There are famous sources that, hold on tight here, that the Jewish people suspected none other than, drumroll, Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, that he had illicit sexual relations with women. Moses, whoa! The same Moshe that he, after coming back from Mount Sinai, he no longer had relations with his wife. This is the person that was being suspected. Imagine, just in our times, just to make it real. Imagine someone coming up to, let's say, where I'm from, Rabbi Levanon, and saying, Rabbi Levanon had tried to, God forbid, have relations with me. There's no way. Just no way. Think about Rabbi Kanievsky, Chaim Kanievsky, so Rabbi Avadia Yosef. No way. What are you talking about? No way. These people, they're in their learning halls 24/7, and they're surrounded by people. No way. And this is not, we're talking about Moses. So the Ein Eliyahu, Rav Shek, he says an unbelievable Torah here. Now he takes us, and now he's going to explain what the connection is. How in the world did the Jewish people suspect Moses of illicit sexual relations? Beautiful. Check this out. Beautiful. He says, the Ein Eliyahu says the following. Korach comes up to Moses and he says in front of all the people, Madua itnasu al kal Hashem. Why have you become haughty above the Jewish people? Oh, there's that word again. Haughty. The Jewish people heard the word by Korach. Korach says about Moses that Moses has the characteristic trait of being haughty above everybody else. And then they knew that, if Moses is suspected of being haughty, that equals illicit relations. Because we said in the Gemara, in the Talmud in Sota, on the 4th page, side B, we said that the Talmud says straight out that anybody that is haughty is as if he has had relations with all illegal sexual relations. So that's how they suspected Moses. Not because of something that perhaps that they saw. That, Moses was fooling around or he was looking at somebody. No! It's because once Korach spoke the words that Moses has a characteristic flaw of being haughty, they knew that equals having illicit sexual relations with others. That's how he explains it. Okay, now, so let's quick summarize here. Our first point was we saw a new angle that we've never seen before in our life, that there was a point amongst Rabbi Akiva and his students as far as women and illegal relations. That's number one. Number two, we see that not being haughty and not respecting one another, as if the Torah considers it to be similar as if you've had illicit relations. So the students of Rabbi Akiva did not respect one another, therefore they looked at themselves better and did not were not unified amongst others. It's as if they had illicit relations. Very good. Okay, now, but somebody might come and pose the question. It says they did not honor. That doesn't mean that they necessarily were haughty. Let's say a person has parents, and they respect them, but to a certain degree. To a certain degree, they respect them. They don't necessarily stand up every time they come in. They don't necessarily get them a cup of water. But from here to say that they were haughty, that's like pushing it. Someone might say that. So let's look. I'm going to bring right now 3 fast sources, that show not so. It's true that the Talmud uses the words, they did not have respect for one another, but let's look at the words of the Torah giant sages, how they explain these words of not honoring. So let's look at it quickly. Our first source is the questions and answers of the Tashbetz, the first book of questions. It's the chapter is 178. Okay, somebody was asked, the Tashbetz was asked by somebody in the community. He was asked, how come we have to be in mourning, not as in good morning, but M-O-U-R, as in mourning of Elut. Why do we have to be in mourning during these days of Sfirat HaOmer, of counting of the Omer? Where do we see a source to that? Where do we see a source? So listen to the words of the rabbi, the Tashbetz. He says the following. It says it did not say specifically in the Talmud what the zilzul shenagu zeh bazeh. He changes the words around. It says it does not say exactly, gives us the exact, the cases of the fact that they look down at others. Zilzilu zeh bazeh. Okay, so it's not just, okay, I'm not, giving you honor, but I'm not, on the other side of the coin, I'm not like, blowing you off, and who are you? You're nothing, you're zero. I'm not looking at you in a bad light. No, the Tashbetz says that this was what's happening. It just doesn't tell us specifically. And therefore, because they were supposed to be the teachers of Torah, this was a desecration of Hashem's name. And this was a desecration, what they did, because of the fact that they looked down at one another, this led to a desecration of God's name, and therefore they were killed off. Number 2, our second source is the Marsha. The Marsha says the following. Okay, it does not specifically say what their sin was. How did they not, what did they do exactly? Okay, they didn't honor, but what does that mean? So he explains, that one spoke Lashon Hara, evil gossip, the evil tongue about one another. And one spoke badly about the other. So he, the Marsha, who's a commentary on the Talmud, he brings down that what the Talmud is telling us is that they were speaking Lashon Hara. They were using their tongues for spreading gossip and evil and bad things about one another. Plus, they would speak detrimentally about one against another. So we see here, it's not just, okay, I didn't give you enough honor, I didn't stand tall enough, but I didn't disrespect. Here we see a disrespect. Number three, he brings down the Ein Eliyahu brings down here, according to his opinion, he brings down the following. He says that we know that from Passover to the holiday of receiving the Torah, Shavuot, it's 7 weeks, and the Zohar Kadosh writes, why is it 7? 7 always reminds us of a wife that is spiritually, she's preparing herself for her to be able to come together again with her husband, with marital relations. So the time is that she has to count 7 clean days before she's allowed to go to the ritual baths. So in the time of the 50 days between Passover and Shavuot, these are likened to a woman that is preparing herself, is cleansing herself, purifying herself in order to come back with her husband. The Jewish people, during these days of the counting of the Omer, we are trying to spiritually perfect and cleanse ourselves in order to come together with God. That's the idea here. So therefore, listen to what he says. And therefore, here's what he says. So he says the fact is that the students of Rabbi Akiva, the idea is to come together. Once again, we use the amount of weeks are 7 weeks. 7 represents the 7 days that a wife must prepare herself to come back to her husband. She must prepare herself before she goes into the ritual bath. This is a time where God is waiting for us to prepare ourselves to connect to God. This is a special time of connecting. And what did the students of Rabbi Akiva do? They did not connect with one another. This is a time of unity. And therefore they did not connect with one another. Why? He uses the word because of gava, haughtiness. So once again, we have to get away from the terminology of they did not honor enough, or they did not honor. Because that could be very minute. That could be very, okay, so instead of honoring somebody 100%, they honored him 90%. Not bad. But that's not what we're seeing here. We're seeing here a totally different picture. And he goes on. The Ein Eliyahu goes on. Hold on to your seats. As we know, it says in the Tractate of Yoma, the 72nd page, second side, it says that the Torah has 2 sides to it. If you go into it with good characteristic traits, it becomes a medicine of life. It's something that will give us life. But if we use the Torah in a bad way, what is the bad way? He brings down that if the students are learning Torah in order to one-upman the second student, or to show the rabbis that they know more than they do, if that is the intentions of the students, then they have turned the Torah, instead of a living Torah, into a Torah that brings upon death. That's how he writes. That's the Ein Eliyahu based on the Zohar Kadosh. That's what he says. That's what he says is happening. That's what is happening with the students of Rabbi Akiva. So we see that it wasn't so. We see definitely here that it wasn't such an innocent, a little bit, 99% they had honor, but they were just missing one little point. We see a different side here, that there was a looking down. There was a learning for the sake of one-upmanship on the second, on a friend. Okay. Our next point. It says there's a book that is, according to our tradition, was written by none other than Abraham. It's called Sefer Yetzirah. Okay, Sefer Yetzirah. It's written in Sefer Yetzirah something very interesting. That if you look at a person's body, a person's mouth is in a direct line with a person's brit, person's circumcision. And Avram Avinu tells us that just like there is a covenant that Hashem has made with a person's mouth, there is a covenant with a person's brit, a person's circumcision. The Avram Avinu, Abraham is telling us here that just like it's not by chance that there's a direct line between the two, they're exactly on the same wavelength, they're exactly on the same line. Why? Because Avram Avinu, Abraham teaches us that there is a tremendous connection when there is something wrong with a person's mouth, what's coming out of a person's mouth. This is a sign that there's something wrong with a person's sexual life. It could be a person with what they're looking at, what they're listening to, some kind of promiscuous sexual violation. Therefore, both of them are connected. Both of them are connected. So this tremendous thing. According to Abraham, if you see that there's a blemish, spiritual blemish with speech, know that there's a connection to a spiritual blemish of a person's sexual organs. There's some kind of piece of the puzzle that's missing here. So once again, we have another angle, another aspect of a connection between the fact that the students of Rabbi Akiva, what we are told, or not really, because we saw today many other angles, but what we're accustomed to hearing is that there was a problem, there was a blemish with the speech. They did not honor one another, or they spoke evil tongue one another, or they spoke degradingly one to another. But here we have another point that shows that when you see something that's spiritually off with a person's speech, there's something spiritually off with a person's modesty, relations, etc. So that's another connecting force to the 24,000 students, people. Okay, now, the Bamidbar Rabbah, last week's portion, we're in Bamidbar Rabbah, we're on 28:5. It says the following. It says the following, that a person must be very, very careful, and he should not look down at the mitzvah, the commandment of Omer. The Omer was a barley gift that was brought to Jerusalem on the second day of Passover, and this would allow us to eat. This would allow us to eat the new produce that would be coming now in this time of year in the spring. So this was the Omer. So our sages are telling us, have respect. Don't think that this is nothing. It's a piece of barley. It's not something, to get excited about. No, get excited about it. Why? It says the following, that because of the merit of the Omer, Abraham was able to conquer the land of Israel. And then they bring in verses to prove it. But there's only one problem, dear friends, with the verses that are brought in the sages' work. These verses are not talking about Omer. They're not talking about barley. They're talking about circumcision. Once again, our sages are telling us, have respect for Omer, for the barley sacrifice that was brought on the 16th day of Nisan to the temple. Have respect, because it brought tremendous victories for the Jewish people. And there's a whole list of things. There's a whole list of victories that we had because of the fact that we were scrupulous when it came to observing the Omer, the Omer sacrifice. But it's very unusual. There is no mention or hint about anything connected to Omer when the verses that Abraham receives the promise of receiving the land of Israel. It's talking about the fact that because of the fact that he circumcised himself, he will receive the land of Israel. So for this, all the commentators ask this question. It's like in your face. It's like, whoa, what's the connection? There's no connection. There is a connection. The holy book, Bnei Yissaschar, he writes in his subject about the month of Nisan. He says the following. He says, in the name of the student, the prize student, the chosen student of the Arizal, Rav Chaim Vital. Rav Chaim Vital says that the time of the Omer, the counting of the Omer, is a special time to correct and to purify what? To purify a person's sexual dwellings, dealings. This is a special time of the year that a person can cleanse themselves and to purify themselves if they have any blemishes when it comes to sexual matters. This is a special time of year. That's what Rav Chaim Vital says. And he goes on one more. He says, if you take the word Omer, Omer is the exact same numerical value as Kerry. Not as in John Kerry, that guy's gone, thank God. But Kerry means a act of a sexual sin that took place. So that's Kerry. So there's a connection, and therefore he says, this special time of the year, that's what the Talmud. That's what the sages meant. When the sages said that Abraham circumcised and therefore he was able to receive the promise of receiving the land of Israel, what did they mean? It meant that as long as Abraham kept holy spiritually, in sexual matters, then he was similar to, again, this is one of the purposes of the Omer. The time of the counting of the Omer is for us to purify ourselves in sexual matters. That's what it meant. So Abraham, even though it doesn't say anything about the word barley, it's hinting to the fact that during this time of year, this is a special time that if we are careful with our sexual life, and we purify and we holy and sanctify it, therefore we will merit to inherit the land of Israel. So these are the words of the Bnei Yisachar. So once again, we see a tremendous connection between sexual violations and the time of the counting of the Omer, which up until today, at least for myself, I didn't see anything that had to do with this subject. And the students of Rabbi Akiva, during this time where Hashem is checking us very, very closely on sexual matters to see how pure are we trying to better ourselves in this subject. Okay, God willing, next week. Right. Next week, we are going to really knock your socks off, to say the least. We are going to our last part, and it's a must-see. We will bring a chart. I might actually leave it here. We will bring this chart in here. We will see the reincarnations that take place from the time of Adam, the first came Adam and Eve, until the times of Rabbi Akiva and his wives. We will see the reincarnations, and this will once again also connect us, these three, as it says here, we have Shechem, number 1, over here, and then we have Zimri, the tribe of Shimon in the desert the last year, and of course, Rabbi Akiva. So this will spiritually, we will see all these reincarnations connected to one another, which we'll see with God's help next week.